This is another one of those cases where I'm really hoping you can just like hear the right answer because I don't have a great explanation. The element carbon has the highest melting point of all the elements on the periodic table, 3,500 degrees Celsius. There's no break in this sentence. It's just a continuous thought, right? The element carbon has the highest melting point of. Well, we couldn't stop there. We couldn't just be done. So that would get rid of D, because if we had a colon, then we would need a complete sentence beforehand. But clearly, if I just stopped with the word of, I have not finished whatever I was saying. Now, some of you might be tempted to pick B. I think this is a trap because some of you are really taking shortcuts. Someone told you, some bad tutor told you that if there's a dash in the sentence, you need a second dash in the choice. That is not true. The dash is flexible. We can have two dashes, which behaves kind of like parentheses or two commas that insert some extra piece of information in the sentence. Or we can have one dash, which actually behaves like a colon and kind of ends the sentence almost with a period, and then we're adding on some extra information that's related. That's what's happening here, right? We could have just ended the sentence where the dash is. The element carbon is the highest melting point of all the elements on the periodic table, period. Now, what the dash is doing here is very similar to what a colon would do. It's allowing us to add on an explanation, right? What is that melting point? What is that temperature? 3,500 degrees Celsius, right? It's explaining the thing that's kind of building up in the sentence, but it's not itself part of the sentence. It's kind of this extra little thing. So that's why we have that one dash there. Now, if you thought that choice B might be right and there might be two dashes, you've got to test it out. What that would mean is that the thing between those dashes is extra information. So remove it. Just read the sentence without it and see how it sounds. The element carbon has the highest melting point of 3,500 degrees Celsius. No, I know it's close, but like highest melting point of 3,500 degrees Celsius, highest of what, right? It needs to be the highest of something. You could say the element carbon has a high melting point at 3,500 degrees Celsius or of 35 degrees Celsius. You could maybe change the word slightly, but even if you did, all the elements on the periodic table doesn't really make sense as an extra thing to insert there. What is that relating to then? What is that commenting on? What is that giving us more information about? The of is part of that. And so that kind of also just gets to why the comma is wrong, is there's no break there. It's just a continuous thought. The element carbon is the highest melting point of all the elements on the periodic table. I think if you were writing this sentence yourself without answer choices, you would have no problem with it. You would never have any temptation to put a comma there. But I think sometimes the SAT tries to bully us into using punctuation in places we normally wouldn't, right? You see that option and you're like, wait a minute, is that a pause? Am I pausing there? The element carbon is the highest melting point of all the elements on the periodic table. Yeah, I'm kind of pausing. No, you're just making up reasons to break up the sentence. So there's no comma because there's no break in the sentence. The whole thing is one continuous thought. And generally speaking, words like of, which are prepositions, are not going to involve punctuation around them. Prepositions are technically going to create prepositional phrases, which are extra clauses, but they don't get punctuation. They just kind of flow. So really the prepositional phrase here as well involves the word of. So of all the elements in the periodic table, that's an extra clause. So it's useful information. Technically, it's not part of the main sentence, but we still would not break it apart with any commas. So that was way more explanation than I hope you needed here, because again, this is one that I'm hoping you're just like, it's obvious what the answer is. I'm sorry if you get it wrong. I tried my best to explain it, but this is easy. You really want to just have an innate sense of how this goes. If you don't, I think a lot of the grammar is going to be hard. So hopefully I can get you started, but yeah, you're going to be in some trouble if you're struggling with this. Sorry.